Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Society 3 BlueCallum Knowledge Transfer webinar. It's number 4 already, and our topic today is Innovation Dream Team. My name is Marita Schulze, co-founder of the Society 3 group and chair of the World Innovations Forum Foundation. Great and a big pleasure having you all with us today from all continents like Africa, Asia, Australia, Europe. And it's also nice to see so many familiar names. Before we start, please allow me to share a few housekeeping. There is no need to do screenshots. We will record the webinar, make it available in the next days on the Society 3 BlueCallum webpage. Please share with us all your questions during the presentation. Just type them into the question box in the GoToWebinar control panel, and we will do our very best to answer them at the end of the webinar or follow up with you directly. Okay, so let me now hand over to Axel Schulze, founder and CEO of Society 3 Group AG, and chairman also of the World Innovations Forum Foundation. Axel started and successfully exited 4 companies, the biggest reaching 5 billion in revenue, the second close to 1 billion, and he's also a published author and patent holder. In 2015, listed in the Global 100 Most Influential Startup Accelerators, 2008, Axel won the San Francisco Entrepreneurial Award, and in 2006, he chaired the SaaS Channel Committee at the SIA in the US, and also as an early advisor in 2003 of LinkedIn. He supported LinkedIn with some advice from his side. We lived the majority of our business life in Silicon Valley. And for the past years, Axel is on a quest to find out how the brain is creating and processing ideas and how some of those ideas could become disruptive to an entire industry segment. But without further ado, Axel, please take over.
Our Dream Team Assembly. And we purposely use the term Dream Team because when it comes to innovation, you need a dream team. It's not just somebody who would just, yeah, you can do that, you're young and so forth, which is a great advantage, of course, but you need a very special team that actually can innovate. And with that, I just want to give you, because there's some of you are here for the first time, a very first short 60 seconds, who we are and what we do. So as an organization, BlueCallum is a ideation and innovation management software solution company. So we build software, as you can see on the right-hand side. We build it not in classical UI, but on a canvas-based structure. So we don't have these columns and fields and so the whole generic UI anymore. Also, as you can see, the dashboard looks different than in most applications, even though that's not unique. That's just sort of latest design. We're actually coming from the enterprise software as a service background. We started one of the first SaaS companies in 2001. Actually, we started in 1999. So software as a service is absolutely no news to us. And we have built unique structures on top of that concept. We also helped probably hundreds of startups get innovative. And all we do is building tools to help innovators innovate. So the BlueCallum neuro ideation model or method is at the core of what we're doing. And like Marita said, we were on a quest to find out how and where ideas are actually coming from. With that, we grew this application based on needs because we get ideas plentiful. And in the past, we selected 1 out of 50 or so. And today, we're using 500 out of possibly 5,000. We do this by using very unique methodologies and also very unique technique in the software itself. We help people start with a half-day intro to a 6-week corporate training, and we're helping people understand what we're actually doing with something called BlueCallum Experience. The first one will be running September 21, goes for 6 weeks, and you will experience the whole new concept of innovation, because everything we're doing is, relatively speaking, new. Once you know where ideas are coming from, everything else changes. Before, everything was basically random and we didn't know, and we were just experiencing. So the agenda today is a recap of what we found out, and then we go through the various items of Dream Team Assembly so that you have the right team for what you try to achieve. And if you try to achieve true innovation, and I mean true innovation in its truest sense, then you will want to have a team that is able to actually come up with something. And that's what we're talking today. So before we do that, just real quick snapshot, a recap of the previous webinars on 2 slides, and you'll find them on BlueCallum.com webinar/recording. It all starts with the idea or the question, where are ideas coming from? We know from the brain. I mean, that's the only place where ideas get created, or better said, actually assembled, but we didn't know how. And that was what we wanted to find out, because how could we possibly do a great job with an instrument, a tool called, the brain, the mind, when we have no clue how it works? So we're just hoping until there's an idea coming in, yeah, we grab it and off we go. So that was the past. And we had obviously some methodologies to do that, but actually about 100, but none of them were in a way or in a manner that you can say, okay, we start and in 4 weeks we have a groundbreaking idea. We do this with pretty much everything. We click on a button on a coffee machine, and in 5 to 3 minutes or 7 minutes, we have a perfectly brewed coffee. If you want to build a house, no matter how complex it is, we know it is ready in probably 1 or 1.5 years. I mean, we still have some wiggle room, but we know, with all the pluses and minuses, we get this done in a certain amount of time. Groundbreaking innovation, we had no clue. We didn't even know whether we get to there, because everything was random and everything was accidental. And so we realized by talking to many of our peers, innovators, that there is no specific finding, and we stumbled upon something called neuroscience, and that was a breakthrough also for us and for ideation itself, because there we understood how ideas get actually created. The most profound shift was when we understood and learned that Homo sapiens, we all are actually not creative. We don't create ideas. All we can do, and that is totally enough, we can compose ideas from past experiences. So everything we had experienced in our past is actually the source for composing a new idea. But that also means that every new idea is assembled basically or composed by bits and pieces of existing experiences. So nothing in the idea itself is new, the composition is new. And there is, when you saw the first, or if you haven't seen it, check out the very first episode of this series. It's fascinating to understand what actually happens when we know that. And out of that came a concept that we call BlueCallum neuroideation, where we understand how we stimulate the brain to certain actions, prevent certain other actions, to come up with ideas in a certain period of time. I mean, if anybody would have told me, 4 years ago that this will be happening, I would have said, no, I'm the first to say no, despite the fact that I was lucky enough to build a bunch of innovative companies. But I thought this is not possible, but it is. And so everything we're doing today is actually trying to find a team that understands these possibilities, that trains their own brain and their own environment to a certain degree without taking drugs and without doing anything special to it, in a way that after a certain period of time, of working together, and far beyond brainstorming, I can tell you that, that they create a groundbreaking innovation that seemed to be impossible today. So the dream team itself is a composition of very unique and different characters. And the concept of neural ideation method changed everything in what we do, but also the composition of the dream team. And that is where it typically starts. An innovation team today is mainly compiled of subject matter experts. You have scientists, or you have engineers, or physicists, or chemists, biologists. You have all these experts who are sitting together, coming up with something and trying to create a new product, a new service, a new organization type, a new functionality, and so forth. But when you look at, just think real quick, if everything that's in your brain is part of the experience, then there's maybe 10, maybe 5, maybe 3, or maybe even 20 subject matter experts who most likely have very similar experiences. So what's the big deal? So you can do this with 1 or 2 or 3. You don't need 50. But just imagine you put in somebody from marketing, somebody from sales, from finance, from logistics, from production. Very different work experiences, very different ways of dealing with things, very different ways of attracting people, very different ways of making things happening. If you put these guys together, total different game. And funny enough, that is the situation in every single startup, because they don't have the luxury of having 20 super scientists. There's maybe one, and maybe this is even the founder itself. But what they have is a team that will build a company, and every investor and every mentor pushes them, build a diverse team. You need somebody for sales and for marketing and for engineering and what have you. And so out of this sheer, lack of resources, an accidental advantage has been created, which we all, again, including myself, never realized up until just now, that is one of the key functions of ideation, is diversity. And if you have a team like a startup, by sheer desperation, you get an amazing team with a diverse background. So the more diverse an innovation dream team is, the better it is. And what you need is basically, one of the big components is basically the so-called experience stakeholders. Now, what do we mean with that? We came up with this term, by the way, just because we wanted to make very clear the core experience is obviously the experience of the customer. So they are the experience stakeholder. If we want to do anything to make the customer not just happy, but wow, and absolutely, then you need these people in your dream team, one way or the other, obviously not as employees, but you have to have them in the dream team. So you will add customers to your dream team because they are the key experience holders. And again, everything what comes with an idea is based on past experiences. If we don't have the experience that we should have, so to speak, in order to build an amazing new design for our customers, well, then we're lacking of something. And if we work as a diverse team that has experience and those who don't have, only then come amazing ideas that may be totally different than any customer would expect, but is what we're exactly looking for. Something that rocks the place and makes a total difference to the entire industry segment. And then we are actually having a true innovation. And with that said, we can actually say goodbye to classic conventional R&D centers as innovation centers. Not saying goodbye to R&D because you still probably will do research, you still want to do development. But that is a specialty of those kind of people who do that. But that has nothing to do with innovation. They may come up with an idea, But as we all know, 90% of these ideas evaporate because it's not their constitution, I mean, their physical constitution or their mental constitution, better said, to build a billion-dollar company out of one of these ideas. And those ideas may be great, but may not even apply for the market. So if we want to build a robust innovation dream team, then we realize that one place to look at is startups. And pretty much everybody understood that. And it's interesting how many enterprises around the world so focused on startups because they know they get this done, but they don't know how. But now we begin to understand why and how, and it actually has nothing to do with startups. It has to do with their composition. But that has been so unclear and so non-obvious that nobody noticed. Nobody. I don't know anybody who noticed that that is the key. So it is also not the key, but one of the keys. If we go further in our concept, we said, okay, if we know, okay, we're looking for a diverse team, there still must be something we felt, and we were not sure, I have to say, if there's even anything we should look for. But we realized that there is some commonality amongst the super teams, and this is why, again, dream team, and those teams who were just cobbled up together. And this is the similarity of key cognitive abilities. Now, this may sound, oh gosh, you know, where do we go with this all? It's not a big deal, but when we see 19-year-olds coming up with amazing ideas who have zero business experience, or 23-year-olds after university, zero business experience. I was actually 19 when I started my first company, and it has absolutely, I had none of what I needed. Well, the company failed, the first one. And my dad told me, oh, go in a big company and learn how a company works. So I did that, and so the first company turned out to become a $5 billion, actually today, $37 billion company. But what's very clear, I think, to all of us that skills and experience in something is not the necessity to actually come up with something special. We will notice that most of the super successful companies have some people who have the experience that we were looking for. But it was also unclear because we didn't know where these ideas come from that we couldn't actually say we need this or that. So, but today we can say key cognitive abilities like curiosity, you know, being curious, you want to know everything and everything. Fast responsiveness, you're a go-getter, you know that term. Get it. You know, if we do this, and this, and this is very complex, blah, 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 blah. And the other said, then we do this and this and this, and we can do that. So this is a go-getter, and that is a cognitive ability. Fearless. Oh, should we really do that? Is there something happening? Do you even think the boss is actually excited about this? Do you think these people like it? Do you think those people like it? Do you think it's really even happening? Do you think it's possible? Fearless is a great attitude. It's a great ability that we need and look for in dream teams. Creativity, or better said now, because we know we are not really creative, compositivity, is a fact that plays in our brain as a key driver for intelligence, is the ability to assemble a thought with many other thoughts. And a thought is actually captured in a tiny little micron or nano size capsule in our neural networks, the endpoint of our neurons. And what they do, they reach out to all their other neurons. By the way, there are 86 billion of it. And so to get these new pictures based on remote ideas, that is an ability that we look for. Special social connectedness, open, sharing. If somebody has everything close to their chest and, well, no, I'm not giving out this, I'm not giving out that, this comes later, and dealing with their theoretical values, is not a good idea, because we need to be fast and we need to think fast and we need to get all these ideas and inputs very fast to the table. The ability to communicate is a big one, because if somebody sits in a corner and just thinks in themselves, they live in their own bubble. But a innovation dream team needs to live in a bubble that is consisted of the entire team. I have an idea, Jum, spot. This is what I'm thinking about. Interesting. What do you think about that way? You know what? This drives me to another idea, this. And some people get nervous and say, you know, all these ideas. Can we focus on something? No. Sorry. No focus in this regard. It's actually good that the ideas flow, because they get deeper and deeper in your mind. And that's one reason why we call our method deep innovation design, because we need to get deep. Any disruptive idea ever is not sitting on the surface on your mind, but very deep. And it takes too long to explain this today, but we need to get to these deeply rooted ideas. And then there's a function or ability is highly determination. I mean, if you give up soon, because come on, this is now too complicated, we do this or that, we need to get to an end point. Done, you know, finish. 80-20 rule. You know, we've been far too far. I mean, we need to get ready by this and this date, so stop it. That's a bad idea. We need to have very determined people. Never give up. No, it's not perfect. We need to get there and there and there. We need to do that. And that is an ability that we're looking for in those teams. And last but not least, intelligent. Interestingly enough, all the items you see before lead actually to intelligence. So I'm always saying it's 7.5 abilities, because the sum of all the first 7 is, to a large degree at least, leading to intelligence. You need intelligent people. Somebody who is, you know, I don't know. Somebody need to figure that out. No, you figure it out because you're an intelligent person. So with the list of these functions or these abilities, we can actually move on and say, okay, how would this actually work? Because there is one thing and one fear, rightfully, is the so-called alpha effect, you know, alpha animals, ego, you know, I know this, I will run this, I want to be the leader, I want to be that, and so forth. We want to and need to deal with a situation where the leader and follower problem, so to speak, is more or less alleviated. And there was one beautiful sentence from Harry Truman, I think it was the third president of the United States, saying, it's amazing what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit. And if you get a team who doesn't care about the credit, but the accomplishment, to be part of this, you know, what we achieved, which seemed to be completely impossible, that is when you have the right people. If there is just one guy or girl who wants to be the ego-driven, you know, it's me and I had this idea, and without me, you couldn't do anything, that would be a total disaster. You know, and if you look at these major projects, you know, just look at NASA or ESA or any of these, I mean, human-like, sheer impossible things, none of them have this ego. All of them know in the concert of the best in the world, we can achieve something that is just sheer size. This is just almost impossible. So the best innovation dream teams are actually leaderless. And that doesn't mean nobody cares and everybody does their own thing. It's actually the opposite. We need to have different responsibilities or so, but nobody needs to tell somebody else how to work, what to work, how to think, what to do. That would be disastrous. Innovation project managers are therefore, in the ideal situation, moderators. And I say ideal situation because we're, as a society and as where we are as humans, in many companies, in a very different state, where company leaderless, give me a break. This is just esoteric, rah. We know we have to have a structure and we will. Okay, I mean, it's not that this all wouldn't work. The only difference is that it may not work as well as somewhere else. We need to eliminate the followers by anonymizing ideas. So that was a concept that we just shortly brought up. So we looked at all the idea snippets. I mean, 50, hundreds of them on a screen, and there were some pictures where we saw, okay, this is more dominant person, and this is probably not so dominant person. And actually, Marita came up. Well, what about making this all anonymous, that nobody knows who created the idea, because all it counts is the idea itself and not who did it. So we're working on this. We probably make it as an option, and we're actually curious ourselves how that will be resonating with clients and users. Then dominating bosses pose a threat. I mean, this is very clear. If you have your boss in the room and he is the one who decides whether you're the good guy or the bad guy, stay or go, all of that, that is theoretically a threat. However, it is only a threat if you are fearful. If you be self-confident as it can get, and you know what you can do, then you are intellectually in this process a peer to your boss. And if that is a rhythm or a culture that is created in this company, then it's actually totally okay. There should not be a problem. I mean, I remember before I run my first real company, which was my second company, I was in a large 87,000 employee company, and I knew my boss and my boss's boss and so on, but I was never fearful that they would fire me or that they would do something or I shouldn't say something because of them. It didn't occur to me. And I mean, we all were driving very cool stuff in this company, and so when we look for a dominant boss and see, well, this is a problem, then the counter side is that we may have weak members. And so if we have dominant people in the team, we need to make sure that pretty much everybody is on the same level. Because dominance doesn't necessarily mean I want to dominate, but dominance means they are, qua their personal power, dominating. So when we consider all this, you already realize that the Innovation Dream Team is not just having a couple cool people, because if you have powerful people, you need to see that this works together, and the power is not used for overpowering others to make yourself grander or greater or better, but actually the power to think as good as you can through all kinds of permutations of ideas to come up with solutions that seem to be impossible. And the reward is not just a credit for the best idea, but the best result. Imagine you're working on an innovation, and imagine you have read one of our blog posts, which is the initial value of an idea is 0. Then we know that the idea is, it's a good thing to have, and we need it, I mean, more than anything else. And the innovative idea is theoretically a crown jewel, but it sits somewhere. If this is not nurtured and developed and, it will be of no value. And so if we as a team work together and have a great team where everybody has their strength, everybody understands their weaknesses, and we are composing an environment where somebody is, really best at this and best at that, and somebody else in that, then we can together create an innovation that is blowing the customer's mind, or even the internal organizational structure. So with taking this out of the way, we're having another issue, and you probably have thought about this yourself already, or many times even, is the entrepreneurial spirit, the entrepreneurial aspects and features. So if you hire people that are almost entrepreneurs, that do everything like founders do, they're smart, they're agile, they're active, they're doing their things, they're fearless, they're taking over, they're running stuff, and you just wonder how they do that, And the question comes, why would they not start their own business and build one of these billion-dollar companies themselves? And that is theoretically a risk to the company, because you have them, you nurture them, you have maybe even a contract, but I would recommend no contracts about, you know, disclosures and all that, because you cannot control and keep a human mind. You can legally bind them for 2 years to do not this or do not that, but it would already start being a sort of a conflicting situation. You know, you get only this job if you do that, and this is not a culture that you want to have somebody in. But what we can do is we can understand what the difference is between a true entrepreneur and entrepreneurial thinking. And if you remember the trades that we just discussed, sort of the key elements, the cognitive abilities, all of them you will find in a list when you say, okay, what do the best entrepreneurs have to have? You find all of them there. But there are 3 areas where you may not find in your entrepreneurial thinking innovator. And there are far more people who not have these final 3s, and that is high risk taking. As an entrepreneur, I was constantly risking anything and everything I had, which everybody else would say this is stupid. I was completely independent. That means wife, children, yes, family, totally respected, but the drive I had for my business, and I see this with all my peers, is greater than any other drive. And not that we are ignorant or anything like that. There is something in us that drives us, like, you know, when we get hungry, we get, we get possibly very bad. And independence is something that is critical for the true entrepreneur, not critical for somebody within a company. And the third one is involving. People who involve everybody in anything, anytime, to make things work to a degree that this determines almost the ownership of whatever you do or they do. Now, there is probably, and I can't tell you exactly, but there's probably 100 times more people without these 3 ingredients than entrepreneurs. We have, believe it or not, 0.007% of humans are successful entrepreneurs. And that means 99.993% are not entrepreneurs. So you can see the rare situation where a successful entrepreneur in this world actually exists. And this has to do with these 3 factors. If you have all 10 of them, the previous 8 or 7 and these 3, then yes, you are clearly an entrepreneur, and you will most likely start your own business. And if that's happening, nobody can prevent you to do that. But most of the people are not that independent. They are not high risk takers. They would, once they have their home, they would not risk the entire home and everything else just for making this crappy company work. And also, they are usually not that involving to get everybody and anything into this, sucking into this concept. And when we look into hiring the dream team, that is actually something where it makes sense to watch out for, because you don't want to have somebody who starts their own business 6 months later. I mean, it would be good for them, but it wouldn't help you. And if you see somebody is that person, well, then you know where the risk is. But it's good to know where these risk points are, because so far most people would not have an answer to what do I look for when I look for my dream team. So then the innovation team members, they may enjoy their extra safety. They're still amazing creatively people. Creativity in this regard is not diminished through these kind of 3 elements, but the risk that they go is basically the factor. And so with all that said, the people who are highly innovative, they feel their quote unquote superpowers. because they have these other adjectives that make them sort of the cognitive power player. And it's okay, and it's actually okay to tell them. Not only okay, I would always do that so that they know we recognize their capabilities. All we need to understand, or they need to understand, is that they're a player in a team, and if they don't risk their house, their family, and everything else, then they're better off staying, and they're better off understanding what this takes to build a company or a new product. Because if this is an innovative product that these guys are building, it will probably $1 billion business. But to build $1 billion business, it takes way more than $1 billion investment. And to put this all together, what it takes to do that, it's very helpful to tell the innovation dream team what it takes to build a company like Uber, or like Tesla, or like SpaceX, or like you name it. And if people say, yeah, this is okay, I still gonna try, super. Then you have just met one of the next big business builders. But typically people will say, yeah, okay, this is not really for me. I'm staying here, it's safe, and I still can do, creatively amazing things. Okay, so when we have understood the superpowers, so to speak, our cognitive abilities, understand that we have a risk between the leader-follower situation, and understand the entrepreneurial borderline when a person becomes a true entrepreneur and want to run their own business, or is close to it but not quite, then we are in a very good position. Because then we know we need to motivate these people to stay in the business but still be fully recognized as somebody who's almost like an entrepreneur. And for most people, incentives like stock options or stocks is a great idea. For 90% of people, this would not be a great idea because, yeah, it's nice. I take this as an add-on, but I don't know whether the stocks go up and down, and oh, I need to pay for them. No, I better not take this. I'm happy with my salary, my job, everything is cool. So rethink how you motivate basically an innovation dream team. It is a different species, not the entrepreneur, it's not Joe employee, it's not a worker, it's not even a manager, it's just one other class of people. And stock options is one, staged milestone rewards is another one. Make sure that as they achieve their certain key milestones, there is something special, because they will work on this project probably for 5 to 7 or 10 years. Because that's what it takes to build $1 billion business. And even the best enterprise is probably not able to circumvent any of the, of the angles and curves and so on. So in order to make this a dream team, like an entrepreneurial dream team in a startup, growing all the way to the top, there are lots of steps in between to keep them happy. So then the question is work environment. This is has been always rising with people we talked to or worked with, and we found something interesting. Initially, it was that, yeah, they should have actually sort of this super relaxed environment. It should look like a startup ecosystem, the wooden startup desks and, a game machine or football or ping pong or anything. But we found out over time that the only thing that does is gives them the feeling that this is a special place. But we also found out by speaking with people who have grown up this way, what they really get sort of super frustrated is if the work environment continues to stay the same. Rules and regulations. You have to be there then and then. The office will be closed then and then. If there's lunchtime, there's lunchtime, and you can only go for lunch in this moment. You will finish with your work by the end of the month. We need the report. This need to be signed. This need to be stamped. This need to be, and so forth. That is a total terrible situation, and people will most likely leave after 2 or 3 years, the very latest. And that would be disastrous, because then the product may become or may get a momentum, and then the people go. So the inspiration part is very, very critical to keep people, so to speak, alive and happy. And one of the most or best inspirational moments are experiences. So give them experiences. And you know, this might be from company to company totally different. This may be an offsite once in a while. This may be, you know, doing something very special or meeting very special people. In one case, somebody came up with the idea, okay, you know what? We want to get the team meet the CEOs of our top 10 companies, customers. And these CEOs were all multi-billion-dollar people. So to meet 10 of them, you can imagine this is a major effort on both sides, customer and the company. But the impact was, and I wasn't actually sure whether this is that much of an impact, but it was. It was just amazing. I mean, it was a once in a lifetime situation for the team, which they will never forget. I mean, they have probably met higher up people in a short period of time than anybody else before. So stuff like that. And so that means creativity also in your activities, stimulation of things, inspiration, openness. I mean, all these quote unquote wonderful words are very, very serious in a situation like that, because that drives people. And so last but not least, you will want to interview them. And also here, we realized over time, basically mostly from startups, but also from enterprises who build their innovation camps or innovation networks or innovation spaces and so forth, is that actually with the interview, already with the way to acquire your dream team, you know, is a huge selection process. And it's not your selection, it's actually the selection of the people. They select if you are sort of attractive enough or not. You cannot, trust me on this one, you cannot select one of the top people. They will select you. So you need to be attractive. There is no way on earth that you can do something to attract them in a way that, oh, okay, this is very cool. I want to look at this, how this works. Because the mechanism of these people, they look up stuff themselves. They look up you on LinkedIn, on Facebook, they look up, you know, records, they look up all the kinds of things they can get within minutes. It takes me, on average, probably 10 minutes to totally understand any kind of company I want to work with, both as an entrepreneur or as an employee or actually as a supplier. And people are selective if they can, and they can, trust me on that one. So share your innovative spirit already in the talent attraction mode, in the interview, in the selection process. And when you do that, then don't fake it, you know, you probably can't anyway, but make it in a way that is as genuine as possible, because that is what people will recognize instantly, not just over time. And so keep in mind that you're attracting the ultra small team that will actually build $1 billion business for your company. And if you have a $100 million or $500 million company, well, they probably get you to $1 billion business. And these people cannot be hired for money, never, ever. So this is the good news. They are not as expensive theoretically as you think, but they are way more demanding than anybody else. And the demand is not on the money side only. The demand is on, can I, as somebody you want to hire, can I do my dream job? Can I actually build this amazing ideas that I have or may be able to create? And can I make it happen in this company? Is there a team? Is there an environment I'd love to work with? Is this something I can actually take some ownership? And ownership is and remains to be a key factor. And if the boss says, no, this is my company, ownership, that's too much. I mean, I remember that before I started Computer 2000, I was actually very close to sign a contract with somebody as an employee, but I said, you know, I want to have 5% of the company. And this was a startup in a company. and there was no way to get even 1%. I thought, okay, I just had this quick thought. If I would be successful in this company, then I would be screwed if I don't get options or shares. If I'm not successful, then it doesn't matter anyway. So then I screwed up. But if I be successful and I see this option, then I start my own, and I did. And this was the company I just mentioned before. So the same thought is going through those kind of minds. And I was probably not that completely fearless person in the beginning, but I've grown into that. So they forced me basically to start my own company. And when you want to do something good, then make it that these people the people you are hiring can actually have, one way or the other, a quick interaction with the CEO of the company. They need to know that the one person who makes the decision of right or left is somebody they can trust, they want to see, they want to hear. And even if it's a 60-second video call, it doesn't matter. That would be enough, but it would go a long way to get these people on board. Okay, so last but not least, and this has nothing to do with the actual steps of getting your dream team together. We were often asked about the hierarchy. So how should it look like? Do we need to have a chief innovation officer or not? Does a VP of innovation necessary? And obviously depending on the company size. But here's sort of a list that is not our recommendation, but this is the list what we've seen most. A chief innovation officer or chief ideation and innovation officer, the VP of innovation, a director of innovation. And this has to do with the size of the company, because in larger companies, we're seeing relatively quickly, there may be 20, 30, 50 innovation teams in different countries, in different departments with different tasks. One is for product A, the other for product B, yet somebody else is for organizational innovation, sort of the inner works of the company to innovate and basically modernize the company. Then there's possibly innovation segments where you say, okay, here we need to get to a disruptive business model. It's not necessarily a product innovation, but a business model innovation. And so with all these multiple innovators in multiple groups with multiple focus topics, you will build a structure that has sort of a hierarchy, even though, I mean, most of us don't like the term hierarchy, but that's what it is. And at the end of the day, the CEO need to consolidate all the information, need to approve all the money that flows into that. So it's probably still the best model to go. So the question is getting started. And there are a couple things I would like to share real quick. One is, obviously the empowerment. And I would like to just say, empowering is an often used word, but I would like you to consider empowering as literal as possible. That means giving the power to decide, to do, to make, to change to somebody else. And your innovation dream team need to be empowered to innovate, because if they're having amazing ideas, they may not be instantly obvious. Obviously, part of our methodology is that if there is no crystal clear presentation within all the milestones of the innovation life cycle, they will not succeed, because there will be approvals in every step. And approval basically to, yeah, okay, we'll give another 1, 5, or 10 million into that project. And somebody who needs to make that decision needs to fully comprehend everything about this project. So there is a give and take, and it remains to be a give and take. But the starting point needs to be empowerment to do what needs to be done to get to an amazing result. So we have done a couple of warming up sessions, and those were corporate specific webinars. So if in your case, if you say, well, it would be actually cool to train or to at least inform our entire team. And we have done this a couple of times, and I can only tell you it was an amazing results. In one case, we basically trained. No, we don't train. We had 600 managers from around the world in multiple sessions, and the difference was simply you find out, not even them, you find out who is interested in, yes, this is a great idea. Let's move forward. Let's innovate our internal organization. And if they realize that because of your initiative, this is something that the company wants, innovation, then, that free up extra miles in their brains, and they come and say, I want to be part of this. And so the selection process comes actually from them, and that's a good thing, because if you point and say, hey, Joe, you should, or Lisa, you should also, they may say yes, they may be saying no, but if it's not coming from the heart, it's not actually what you want to have. Then there is something which we do for the first time starting September 21. We call it BlueCallum Experience. And this is a 6-week program. It's sort of a hybrid. It's a little bit of a training. It's a little bit of coaching. It's a little bit of monitoring and moderating. It's a little bit of mentoring through the entire sort of innovation life cycle within 6 weeks. And we have done this in a shorter version, and we realized that's probably the best we can do. And it's funny, the outcome where we are today is almost like an accelerator for scale-up startups. I mean, startups who have been already successful and now want to go really, really big. And we believe this is a very good idea, because you experience the whole methodology, but also the technology inside your company with your team, and actually come up with a groundbreaking innovation within 6 weeks. And we have done this with, I think, probably 30 teams, and we always came up with something innovative that was truly innovative. I mean, not just improvement, taking something and making it an innovation. Those who want to get their hands dirty, on August 26th, we start our BlueCallum beta test. So this is where you can get your hands on the BlueCallum system. And we have an introductory webinar on August 26th, so that you can listen to, ideally, to both webinars if you're up to, so you get an idea what the experience program is, and you get an idea how to play with the product yourself. And there are people who just want to play with the product themselves, and others want to see how this actually really works for your company in the environment that we're basically providing. And last but not least from my side, I think the best would be explore BlueCallum together with us in a call. We know that the starting point is always, in situations like that, is always the toughest. And you may probably you don't know who we are, and is this all solid? Well, I guess you can publicly figure out who we are. But it would be good to have a call saying, okay, where could we take this in your business? Where you say, okay, this is all interesting, but how would this work in my company? We're a company XYZ in this market, it's that size, team so-and-so, budget's always constrained, and this is always the case. But we still need to innovate. And then we could find out what the most burning needs are, where the threats come from. I mean, in terms of innovation, who could come in, and you possibly don't know, then we can even find out together. And then what's the expected outcome, where you probably at this point in time maybe don't know. I mean, some very clear, I mean, this shall be the outcome, others maybe not. And we can deal with both sides. Then where should you start? What resources, budgets, timeline? I mean, all these kind of things theoretically is sort of probably in an hour or 2 hours even, maybe it's 2 calls. We're not a consulting company, so we're not charging for that. We want to make you happy and successful with what we have built, and obviously be proud of what we did. And that would be probably the best bet to start. And then we can find out where we can be most helpful. Yeah. And with that, I would say thank you so much for joining, and I give it back to Marita in case there are questions.
Axel, can you hear me?
I can.
Because I think that something was wrong in the beginning. I was not heard by our audience. Again, sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now we got some questions during your presentation. And let me just share it with you. In regards of certification, is there a certification process for the team?
Okay, good question. Actually, there will be. So it's already on the website. We don't have dates yet because we're running like 300 miles an hour. But there will be. We're preparing the certification program to become a deep innovation design master and so forth. Part of our founders team and advisory board members, they come from a local university here in Switzerland, and helping us put this all together on a relatively academic level. So we got even requests from universities to do this for them. So these programs we take very serious, and I hope we can let you know in the next, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks. Our goal is to have by August 26th everything together regarding our certification and training programs and so forth.
Thanks. Another question is, I'm looking for a role description for the various innovations jobs. Do we provide such information?
So you said role description?
Yes.
Okay. This is a good question. I had this before. We never did it, but we put up these what we call the innovation hierarchy. But it's actually a very good point. I think we should make a note. I believe we could, and maybe we could even do this quote unquote together. I mean, let me think very quickly. We could put up a page on like Google Drive, and everybody in the ecosystem could contribute, and so we can crowdsource that kind of roles program, even though there might be different versions. Yeah, great question. Thank you.
Thank you. That was from Gina. Thanks.
Okay, cool.
Okay, another question came from Sint. He said, where can we look for jobs as an innovator?
Also a very cool question. So, I mean, we have not thought about that we become possibly somebody who can do something. But what we did is, and there's a page on the website about opportunities. So we put together a couple types of jobs or types of roles so that people can get sort of their arms around possible opportunities. But we may not be in a position or not want to be in a position to become a job board, but that is something we would actually throw into either partners who have already sort of a job platform and simply add something to it. The other option is, as you probably know, we have our own foundation, the World Innovations Forum, and people around the world looking for innovation jobs. So we haven't been asked yet, but let me think. I think we should consider that. So Marita, you know who asked, right? It was Sint?
Yes.
Was that the name? So Sint, great question. I think we should get back to you and see what we could do possibly together. I mean, as you probably saw on our website, I mean, we have built everything in the past with partnerships, with large partner networks, and we intend to do the same in BlueCallum. And so, yeah, let's think together how we could do that.
And one more question in regards of strategy. Do you help build and execute strategy in your program?
Okay, yes, we do for now. Talking about partnerships, that is another area where we want to work with partners. We have already a couple people sort of that want to become a business partner of ours, one in France, one in the US, Singapore, South Korea. And so that is our perceived, or that is our assumed strategy for going forward. But we're focusing right now on making it work with some of the, some cases and some reference customers. And so we are currently helping on the strategy side ourselves. But just understand that we're not a consulting company, and we simply help embed the product in our methodologies as good as we can so that you are successful. Yeah.
And so now, and the very last question was, so how soon will the recording be on our website? I have to say, I have to talk with the team, and I'm sure there's an echo. Axel, you are on mute.
Okay.
Thank you. So yeah, in regards of when will this recording be on our website, I think it will be latest on Saturday evening, which is your Saturday morning on the website. A very last question is coming from Juliette. In your experience, what type of internal programs helps stimulate and bring to the forefront the qualities you have identified within the general corporate environment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a cool question. I have to admit, we don't have any programs yet. What we're working on with the team is that we're working on the classical, quote unquote, classical methodology training. And but you're totally right. I mean, there are a couple things how people think in general, and this goes obviously beyond our focus or our scope. But when we think of innovation, now let me go a little bit wider. In our own thinking, innovation is not just the next product or a better organization. Innovation is also helping us humans to do something better. But whenever we innovate, and we innovated in the past, we actually killed something. It was either space, it was air, it was space for animals, it was all kinds of things. And there is a trade-off, and this is a natural trade-off. I mean, when elephants, roam wherever they are, after they're passed, after, many of their herds passed, I mean, that piece of earth looks very different. The same with wildebeests and so forth. If we have worms in our dirt, it looks different. So we do change things, but on the other side, we as humans have the capability of understanding of the impact of change. And so all these kind of attributes or aspects are are part of innovation. Now, we found out how it works, and we found out how a tool that can actually make it work and make it easy to work. But again, we're betting on a partner structure where we have people who not only implement or train or educate, but also guide customers in various ways. And if that is something you want to do or can do, that would be actually wonderful.
Thank you. Giving the time, I have to say, I would like to thank everyone. Actually, can you mute yourself? We will learn that. Yeah, I like to thank everyone. It was a great pleasure being with you today. We all would love to stay also connected with you in our groups on LinkedIn. We are also on Twitter and on Facebook. So reach out to us whenever you have a question, and also reach out to us to provide some more feedback. In case you missed one of the previous webinars, you will find the recording, as I said in the beginning, on our webpage in the section events. With that, on behalf of Society 3 BlueCallum and World Innovation Foundation, thank you very much for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day, and please all stay safe. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.